Welcome to the World Class Speaking podcast series. This is a place where you will learn how to present, persuade, and profit by improving your communication skills. Each episode in the series is a chapter from the book World Class Speaking in Action. And each chapter is written by a certified world class speaking coach. I'm your host, Matt Miller, and I've carefully crafted and summarized each chapter in the book. Have you ever been super excited to hear a speech or read a book or even attend a training? You probably were excited because you were looking forward to the result of the speech or the book or the training. We always anticipate the end result. So which of the following sounds more exciting? 1, throughout this book, you are going to learn how to prepare for interviews, conduct interviews, ask amazing questions, listen effectively, document paperwork, and follow up appropriately. That's the first question. Or the second question, after reading this book, you will hire top talent that will increase your profitability. Well, the second one probably sounds better because it's selling a result rather than the process. In this episode, you will learn how to sell the result through effective storytelling. Let's jump in. This is episode 27, Creating a Compelling Story That Sells a Result, and it's by Richard Ballard. And Richard Ballard is the author of this specific chapter, and he is a certified world-class speaking coach, author, and keynote speaker. Now, why is this episode so important? Well, selling the result through storytelling is super important because the audience is always asking the question, what's in it for me? That's what the audience cares about. They don't necessarily care who the speaker is or what they're speaking about, but they care about the result that they're going to receive. When you're speaking, you're always selling something, whether it's a product or a service, or you're simply selling yourself. You need to sell the result of what you're selling. And what I mean by this is whenever you're selling something, you want to start with the result. Here's an example from Craig Valentine, who is the overall author of this book that I've referred to in every single episode in this series. And Craig Valentine certified every single speaker are the individual authors of the individual chapters in this book. And Craig Valentine was on a podcast with one of my favorite authors and keynote speakers, Rory Vaden. And at the end of the podcast episode, Rory Vaden asked Craig Valentine, is there anything that you want to leave with the audience before the end of this episode? And Craig Valentine says the following. He goes, if you want to become 3 times better in public speaking for free, visit 52speakingtips.com and sign up, and I will deliver you a free tip every single week for the next 52 weeks. Now, what he did was he started off by selling the result. He said, do you want to become 3 times better at public speaking? He sold the result. That's what he did first. And then he mentioned the word free, which is also very important because your audience always loves free stuff. And then he got into how it's delivered. It comes 1 time a week for 52 weeks for an entire year. He started off by selling the result, and then he mentioned the word free. Now think about it if he would have said it a different way, such as, do you want to receive a weekly email from me of 6 paragraphs explaining a tip on how you can get better at public speaking? If so, visit 52speakingtips.com, and this will be delivered to your email address. He would get totally different results because he's not starting with the results. He's starting with the delivery. That's the distinction. You always want to start with the result. Another thing, when you're selling, instead of saying, today, I'm going to share, I'm going to show, I'm going to teach, say, today you are going to learn, discover, and receive, walk away with, because you're selling the result and making it about the audience when you do it that second way. Now I want to transition into some tips on creating stories that sell results that is directly from the book. Nothing will kill your career faster than to borrow a story and make it your own. So you must give credit where credit's due. And if you're giving a story, try to make it original. Try to make it tailored just to you. You actually live the story, so make it about yourself. Don't try to fit your story into somebody else's story that you heard in a podcast or an episode. Number 2 is, as humans, we all laugh and cry about the same things. We care about family, friends, and life-changing events. Those three things. That's directly in the book as well. So if you're creating a story that sells the results, how can you get the audience to think about their family or their friends or life-changing events? And the third thing that I want to mention about creating stories that sell results is there's 5 different types of conflict to incorporate in your stories. And conflict is super important because conflict is what makes the story. It's what gets the audience engaged. It's what gets them to anticipate what's coming next, and it gets them excited. And these are the 5 different types of conflict to incorporate in your story. First is person versus person. So think about an example of this would be 2 people arguing at a dinner table. That would be conflict between person and person. The second type of conflict would be person versus society. And this could be an example of somebody promoting artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence might be controversial. That could be an example of conflict of person versus society. Then the third example is person versus nature. An example of this could be sailing a sailboat through a hurricane. Then the fourth type of conflict is person versus environment. Think of a family dealing with the aftermath of a house fire. And then the fifth type of conflict is person versus themselves. Think about fear. That's the biggest thing that holds all of us back. Overall, conflict is the hook. You want to get your audience to bite and get excited by introducing conflict. And then your climax should be the significant emotional event. It should include some kind of wisdom, lesson, or strategy. And then the conclusion should conclude your story, not the speech. To summarize what we spoke about in this episode, number 1, you want to be original, use personal stories, relate to the audience by showing your imperfections. Number 2, ask the question and turn into the radio station WIIFM. What's in it for me? You always want to have it audience focused and not you focused. You always want to sell the result. Never sell a product, idea, service to yourself. Always sell the result of those things. And then there's 5 types of conflict. Person versus person, person versus society, person versus nature, person versus environment, and person versus themselves. And now that you know the importance of selling the result, I want to encourage you to think about the end destination or the result and position yourself as the guide to help your audience reach these results. And remember, when Craig Valentine was on that podcast with Rory Vaden, he closed by saying, do you want to get 3 times better at public speaking over the next year for free? If so, visit www.52speakingtips.com and you'll be delivered a free tip every single week for the next 52 weeks. Think about selling the result first and then showing the delivery. And that wraps up this episode. And in the next one, you will learn how to transform your speaking with the power of eye contact. That's all we've got for this episode on the World Class Speaking podcast series. Until next time, remember that becoming a great communicator is so important because it leads to greater impact, influence, and income. Thank you for listening and have a great day.